If you do not mind, then appreciate my efforts by subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much in advance.
Welcome to Special News Channel. The war in Ukraine has been going on for 10 months at full speed. However, the Russian army lost much more than it gains. Ukrainian forces counterattack almost the entire battlefield and are constantly gaining more and more ground. The approaching winter must slow down offensive operations, but the Ukrainians are signaling that they will continue to push back the Russians. It turned out that Russia explained its losses in the territory of Ukraine with distorted reports. The real losses of Russia are many times higher than the announced ones. The weakness of Russia's one-man government was costly. Russia's decision to withdraw its troops from the city of Kherson, the only regional capital it has annexed from Ukraine, has sparked speculation. Recognizing that they had problems, especially in the attacks carried out by the Ukrainian army on the Kherson region, Russia formed a defensive line on the left bank of the Dnieper River. On the other hand, the leader of Ukraine approached the withdrawal of Russia cautiously, underlining that the announcement of the withdrawal may be a strategic move to regroup the forces. Zelensky stated that Ukraine will move forward in the region at a time determined by itself. The Ukrainian leader who gave the signal to continue the offensive did not comment on the time of this. Zelensky, in his address to the nation, explained that Kiev was acting very carefully. The Ukrainian leader said that the enemy does not give us gifts, he does not show goodwill, we have to win ourselves. Zelensky also underlined that they would act with minimal risk. The retreat at first so far for the Russian army was in good order, although Russian forces were withdrawing from the western flank of the Kherson province and the provincial capital Kherson city. The retreats before Kiev, Kherson and Kharkiv were all chaotic. During the retreat, vehicle losses were probably in the hundreds, with most of the remaining equipment successfully destroyed by Russian forces to avoid being given to Ukraine. This relative success was due to, in part, a more effective single operation command under General Sergei Surovikin. However, power in the Russian military continued to be fragmented by weak lower and mid-level leadership and a culture of cover-up. Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky, who has made statements about Russia's missiles targeting Kiev recently, announced that these missiles will not come to an end and that Russia is preparing a new attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that the Russian army is preparing for a new missile attack on Ukraine's civilian and energy infrastructures. Zelensky, in his post at night, reminded that the war between Russia and Ukraine continues, pointing out that the heaviest clashes continued on the Donetsk front during this week. As in recent times, Zelensky made a very heavy assessment of the situation at the front, stating that Russia bombed civilian and critical energy infrastructures in Ukraine again last week. Zelensky stated that effective studies were carried out to solve energy problems in the country as a result of the attacks. Claiming that Russia is preparing for new attacks, the Ukrainian leader said that, "We understand that terrorists are preparing new attacks, we know this for sure. Unfortunately, the invaders will not calm down as long as they have missiles." On the other hand, Russia, still unable to accept the failure, argued that the Ukrainian army had suffered too many casualties, but they had suffered less than Ukraine. They served the losses of Russia in Ukraine with a fiasco report. According to reports from the front, no one knows the real Russian military casualties. In the first weeks, there was some information, but now no one knows what is happening in Ukraine. Lost contact with the huge Russian divisions. They can re-establish contact or disperse under an attack. Even the commanders do not know how many people were killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. The total dead are certainly thousands, maybe 10,000, maybe 5,000, or just 2,000, but nobody knows the death toll, including the Russian commanders. However, according to the reports of objective international unions such as the EU and NATO, the military losses of the Russians in this war approached 100,000. The armed forces of Ukraine also announced similar figures. According to the Russian administration, the number of soldiers of the Moscow army who died in the war is even below 10,000. However, these figures stated by the Russians are not realistic at all.